Open your F3 menu and just look at the entity counter. That's where the explanation ends. Nobody tells you where the entity counter is, why it spikes, what the numbers mean, or how you're actually supposed to use it. So in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you exactly how this method works, why it works, and how to use it to find bastions consistently instead of wandering around the Nether hoping to get lucky. First, let's get one important thing out of the way. Bastions can spawn in the Nether Wastes, Soul Sand Valley, Crimson Forest, basically every biome except Basalt Deltas. Open your F3 menu and just look at the entity counter. That's where the explanation ends. Nobody tells you where the entity counter is, why it spikes, what the numbers mean, or how you're actually supposed to use it. So in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you exactly how this method works, why it works, and how to use it to find bastions consistently instead of wandering around the Nether hoping to get lucky. First, let's get one important thing out of the way. Bastions can spawn in the Nether Wastes, Soul Sand Valley, Crimson Forest, basically every biome except Basalt Deltas, which is kind of weird because the Basalt Delta blocks look pretty similar to the Bastion blocks. So you'd think Bastions would spawn there too, but apparently they just don't. I don't know why either. If you know the reason, let me know in the comments. Whenever you can, try searching in Nether Wastes instead. Not because bastions are more common there, they aren't, but because the terrain is much more open. You can travel faster, see farther, and checking the entity counter becomes much easier without giant cliffs, dense forests, or huge terrain constantly blocking your view. Here's another fact that most people don't mention. Whenever the game generates either a bastion or a nether fortress, there's roughly a 60% chance it'll generate a bastion instead of a fortress. So if you keep finding bastions while looking for a fortress, that's completely normal. And if you're trying to find a fortress instead, I've made a full guide on that as well, so check it out after this video. Let's actually set everything up. Press F3 plus F6 to open the debug menu. In the search bar, type Entity, then enable the Entity Counter under the Overlay section. Now press F3. Among all the information on your screen, you'll now see the Entity Counter, usually displayed as something like E45/300. That's the only number we're going to pay attention to. Before we start searching, lower your FOV to 30. This isn't required, but it makes it much easier to notice the exact moment the entity count starts increasing. Now slowly turn your camera in a complete circle while watching the entity counter. If the number suddenly jumps by several entities, that's usually a sign that a structure containing mobs has loaded in that direction. If you don't notice any changes, don't worry. Press F3 plus B to enable entity hitboxes. Then start pressing F3 plus A while looking around. Reloading chunks this way briefly causes the blocks to disappear before they reload, while entity hitboxes remain visible for a moment. This makes it much easier to spot areas with lots of entities hidden behind terrain. Keep rotating slowly as you do this. If one direction consistently shows more entity hitboxes or a higher entity count than the others, that's the direction you want to travel. If possible, stay in Nether Wastes while doing this. Because the terrain is so open, you can move much faster, reload chunks more efficiently, and keep checking the entity counter without constantly losing sight of where you're going. As you travel, keep repeating the same process. Walk a little. Press F3 plus A. Slowly rotate, watch the entity counter, find the direction where it increases, then keep moving that way. Don't expect one massive jump that instantly points to a bastion. Most of the time, the increases are gradual. You're looking for the direction that's consistently higher than the others. If the numbers stop increasing, simply reload the chunks again, rotate slowly, and check once more. If the numbers stop increasing after a few repetitions, you'll usually narrow down the correct direction and run straight into a bastion much faster than randomly exploring. And that's it. If you still can't find a bastion after this, I genuinely don't know what to tell you. Leave a like, subscribe for more Minecraft guides, and I'll see you in the next one.